29. Hey, good evening, everybody. Dave Wilson and Stephen Farrell will be right back in 1 second. You know, Steve, I feel like I'm at the movie theater with that.
I have the same feeling. What an incredible intro.
I sit there and when I made the video with the guy, it's like that intense theater sound that you're in,
It just gets you pumped up.
Makes you feel how's everything going on this great Sunday night? Ready to go to work tomorrow?
I ready for tomorrow. I'm already there, man. I'm working today.
That's why I feel like, man, I got all showered up, man. I don't have my hat.
I gotta say that looks great, and I'm honored to be on the first show with your cap completely off.
It is. I mean, I still have some issues with it and everything like that, but it's good not to wear it, especially outside. You can go outside, get a little sun, but
can I be honest with you, Dave?
Yeah,
that cap was never your thing, man. It didn't fit you very well.
Maybe because I'm 54. 54 years old, and I got a cap on. I had one, Alexandria, she says, I thought you were going through a phase of life or something like that.
Right.
I was like, no, there was a reason, The reason I always like doing Sunday night shows, Steve, is because right now I bet like every HR people and staffing and, it's Monday morning. Here it comes.
Monday morning. Yeah.
And I always like to talk about a couple topics, and there was two of them that I wanted to hit tonight. One was exit interviews. And please feel free, anybody that you would like to leave a comment. Exit interviews to me, whether it's logistics or professional services, I feel you both, if you're not doing it, you're going to lose.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to be the first one to admit, I always tell the truth. When you're in the high volume, it's very hard.
It really is. Yeah.
Professional services, I thought would be just as easy, but sometimes people don't want to just tell you. How do you feel about exit interviews?
Well, let me answer the last comment you just made of, some people just don't want to tell you. And it's not that anyone, people aren't lazy, not necessarily, they might not be upset, although some of them may have been upset because of the circumstance leading up to them leaving. But really, a lot of people do it out of self-preservation. They don't want to be negative. They don't want to share what actually happened because it might ruin the chance for them to get another opportunity. They feel like that's a bridge that, they want open to cross another day. And so they don't feel safe. That's what it comes down to. They don't feel safe giving that info.
I didn't think of it like that way.
Yeah.
But the way you look at that, Leah, like you said, if you want to go back, maybe you just left for a certain reason, or, some companies have different breakoffs of companies. And, wow, I didn't think of it that way. Because the way I looked at it is when a client would come to me and say, why are they leaving? Well, if you did get the reason, sometimes the clients don't like the negativity. But I feel it goes both ways. So I try to listen to both sides. But if it's a couple people in a row saying the same thing, say it was a supervisor they were having a problem with.
Yeah.
They might be nervous to say something.
Right. They fear of retaliation. And sometimes, like I for me, when I've left companies and I've wanted to give my boss the bird. Like I wanted that call from HR to say, hey, let me tell you how I really feel. And I always, took a deep breath
Yep.
And I only shared positive feedback, and then maybe just surface issues. Just, well, hey, you ought to look into, treating your people a little bit better with some incentives, because there just wasn't any morale boosters. And I would keep it, simple. And it's helped me down the road, because then after I've cooled down and I've matured, I realized, okay, maybe it wasn't as bad as I thought it was. And maybe I want to use this person as a reference, or might need to. But when it comes to light industrial, Dave, doing exit interviews, I don't think we should lose that sense either. Like we want to get raw feedback. We want to make the person feel safe. And because it back to like, hey, maybe it was the same supervisor that's causing the issue. Like we want to find that out so we can help that supervisor, so we can share that with the HR manager, and maybe they can coach that supervisor. And I think it comes back to delivery. Like when you say, oh, here, your supervisor is terrible. Look what he did and said, and this is our third person, versus, hey, here's 3 statements. I don't want to tell you what to do, but I think you'll see the theme in here. And if you want help doing some training courses on people management and soft skills, let me know. I'll be happy to share some ideas. But I think you'll get an idea of what's in these 3 statements, that of what you'll need to improve the situation.
And that's really good to think of it that way too, because I always felt in my experience, when I did get a hold of the candidate, whether it be logistics or it be professional, and how would they say it? They would always want to be a professional about it. Like when you said that about, well, it was just, personal things, nobody wants to give the truth.
Yes.
And even when I had left the former companies, you're right. You really wanted to say, hey, you know what? That feeling of leaving a job, that's great. But at the same point, you don't want to burn bridges.
Yeah.
But I feel if it was something that really should be addressed, I've learned now going forward, and I've told you I'm not like a new man or changed or something in the world of staffing, but I've really learned to where that's some of the problem. Why? Because we don't talk about it.
Yeah.
We don't. I don't. Listen, I had everybody from so many people in the logistics. I didn't have time. Sometimes I just couldn't get to it. But then when I did know the reason and I told the client, sometimes you got negative feedback from there. Well, this. So it's just like you said, I think it's that conversation that has to take place now, especially what's going on.
Think about it, Dave. Think about you've been in the light industrial space.
Yeah.
I've been in it for a couple of years. The amount of people that leave without notice, without saying anything, is just above anything else. It's the highest. You have to call those hundreds of people over the year to try to get an answer, and to go back to your client and say, here's why people left. But at the end of the day, it goes back to management skills. The line supervisors, if they are managing their people well, if they're taking care of their people, if they're treating them like their coworkers and not like a temp, you're going to get that feedback, because you're going to have a supervisor that people trust and are open with, and they're going to share their disagreements with that supervisor. Yeah. And that's the truth, is the supervisors, it's not their fault. They were just the best. Like they were the best at their craft, and maybe they had decent people skills, but they got promoted, and then the training stopped. They're all of a sudden, bam, they wake up, they have a new job title, and they're a leader. They're a leader, but they don't have leadership skills or leadership training. And people think, oh, that, you probably, Dave, you run into someone, you're like, that guy's a natural leader, or that gal, she's a born leader. And that's not the case. No one was born a leader. That is an attribute that is learned. And that means you can learn how to be a leader. And unfortunately, in these large production companies, and some actually do a really good job at this, but a lot struggled to have a good soft skill, people management, ongoing training with their new supervisors. And so there's collateral damage, and you lose good people. And then you have these team members that quit because they don't like their supervisor, or they have a false perception of their job that a supervisor wasn't able to clear up for them because they're a bad communicator. And then they leave. And then you and I are trying to track down the reason they left. And we know that it's going to come down to that supervisor.
It is. And a lot of the times too, like you've heard me talk a lot about HR. Listen, HR is there for you. HR, I feel of all the HR directors I've ever met, they're your comfort zone. They're there for you. People fail to realize that if I put somebody on assignment or find them a new employment, temp to perm or something like that, and if they're having issues, don't be afraid.
Yeah.
Years ago, I always said back in the day, we always had, open door policies, and a lot of people, you don't hear that as much, but come in, vent to me. And in the military, I could go up to a sergeant or a lieutenant and say, sir, permission to speak out loud. He would say, speech granted. You could yell, you could say whatever you wanted. And it wasn't, it was in the military, it was not held against you. So you knew afterwards, it didn't matter what you vented, but you did what you were told, but at least you felt like you said something.
That I wish every company, every HR manager would apply with that same concept from the military, because that's what people just want. They want to know they have a voice.
Yes.
And then they want to be heard. Whether you agree with what they say or not, you need to hear your people out.
Yes.
And if you don't do that, you're going to lose them.
And I felt bad sometimes. And, you always go back and you look through the years. And I think as we get older and you're more experienced, there's some situations that I wish I would have done more for someone.
Yeah.
And I tell the truth too much. Why hire me, right? But what I mean by that is, don't be afraid to have that conversation because it's uncomfortable, and it doesn't have to be. I can be like, if you were the HR person, Steve, or something, I'd be, Steve, can we talk? Listen, John having issues saying this. I don't think there's nothing wrong with that, as long as you don't come back as negative either, because then you can start some trouble also.
Yeah, you have to be an HR manager has to be a good listener.
Yeah.
And instead they're focusing on recruiting.
Yep. I know. I am nice and calm now. I am not going there. I know that.
Right.
No, that's okay. I know. My whole thing is with HR, and I swear I thought I'd get a lot more sales than I have been getting now, is because HR to me it means a lot. HR back in the day, it was always to scare the hell out of you. You were
going into the principal's office every time, right?
You did, Don. I remember names, Donnie, Sandy, all these. They never just said, "Hey, Dave, come on in here. Let's have a talk." But it was their job, and I look at it now as like a fear to people don't want to speak about something.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been through a couple things myself, and I've learned, nip it in the butt.
Yeah.
Because those exit interviews, if you can get out of 10, if you can get 4 of them, and let's just say 2 or 3 of the reasons were the same, and you're not addressing it, I think you're just as guilty too. You're not a leader.
You really are. You cannot overlook some of those details. I had this happened just a week ago. I'm talking to a line supervisor. This associate was not the right fit for the job. Like, that a person that just complains about everything, right. Nothing is right. Okay. But here's the thing. There are some things that this associate complained about that were very real. They were valid. These were big problems. And so she's picking up on the big problems and all the small ones. And so if you have someone that's disgruntled about one problem and they want you to address it, that's one thing. But when they're disgruntled about everything, they find every problem. Yeah. Okay. That person's not a good fit, but you cannot overlook what those problems are, even though that person is just complaining about everything. There are some truths in that, and you can address them. And what I loved about this line supervisor is I didn't have to point that out. He pointed it out himself.
Right.
Yeah, I know I've got some things to work on. And I'm like, wow, that's brilliant. I mean, that's somebody that is a leader. That's somebody that can go, I don't have it figured out all the time, even when I think I do.
Oh, wow. We had a guy at a general manager at Tesla. I'll never forget what he told me. He just called it his whiteboard. Before he would make any changes with his staff, he'd have them all in the meeting, and he'd stand up front of the board, and he would write down what he would like to change, processes, anything. He wrote it down.
Wow.
And he asked everybody, all right, let's talk. they all really got into it because they all would say, well, I don't think that's going to work because, all right, he would write it down, write it. Because then he was it really made sense to me when Greg said, now, he didn't think of that.
Well,
He didn't think of it.
think about it. You're like, as a leader, you have there's three primary decision making styles. Like you have autocratic, where you're just like, it's my way or the highway. Then you have democratic, where you leave it up to everybody, right? Like the whiteboard, like, hey, here's some ideas, but let's have you. And then I can't remember the third one, but the third one is you let them, your team, just figure it out on their own, and you're just behind the scenes. And I think the democratic style is probably the best approach, because you get everybody's buy-in, and you don't know it all. So sometimes your team has the best ideas. In fact, they usually have the best ideas, and it's going to make you look good in the end. I mean, come on.
It is, because when you said about the exact thing, when I was in the manufacturing, when I got out of the military, it was a union environment, and I was the youngest supervisor there, and these guys would really get on me. There was always that one that would complain, but he was the best. He was the best. So you overshadowed all his complaining, because what he did say was correct. It made you think like, yeah, say his name was Gary. Yeah, Gary's always complaining, but you know what? But I learned like 2 or 3 things. I better listen to him. You can overlook that, but you're right. You know, some people complain, and I just, we'll move on to the next subject, but I just really believe that if anybody was to come to me now, my approach is you have to nip it in the bud. Don't be afraid of the conversation. What's the worst is going to happen besides when, the company calls you back? Why are people leaving our company? Why?
Right.
Money?
And that's what HR managers, at the end of the day, that's what they want to know. Why are people leaving? These are real people. And I go back to when I get a hold of my people that have left, I go, at what point, Dave, did you decide this wasn't the right fit for you? Like, was that on the first day? Was it in the first week, the first month?
Right there.
Because if I can pinpoint that, then I'm going to be able to peel back all of the issues and the problems. If the common theme's the first day,
right?
Okay, I think I have an onboarding and training problem. Maybe my trainer is really good at what they know and what they do, but they do not know how to train. Like they don't know the different training and learning styles of people. And so they're just a really bad trainer, even though they're the best at what they do. And so if I can figure out when you decided to leave, when this wasn't the right fit for you, even though it took you another 2 weeks to leave, then I'm going to I can really figure out where the root cause is. And I think we miss that a lot in this industry.
And in high volume, we used to utilize the Texas. Like when you put out 50 people on that one day on a Sunday, hey, remember to go here. The text would go out. They go to work. And then that second or third day, listen, it's hard to call 100 people. You don't have to, but you could send a quick text and multiply down and say, hey, how was your first day? How's it going?
Yep.
Because 9 times out of 10, you would get a couple people that would be, I don't like, well, give me a call.
Right.
Then you can say, because not all of it, like you said, it's not a fit for everybody. And that way you learn.
Yes.
And I have one example that I'm going to bring up. I had one company that wanted to hear the exit interviews. I said, okay, you really want to hear them. I got the sale.
Wow.
Got it. All the other agencies, we want to know why people are leaving. You got 6 companies. Well, I get there. People were leaving. They were coming back. Some of them were saying their wrists were hurting. They weren't being rotated. So I'm like, you know what? I called and emailed. They're saying they're not being rotated. No, they are. They're all rotated. Okay. Then people started to leave because they kept saying there was 3 individual employees that would constantly yell at them. They were full-time. And they were constantly yell at them. Okay, would one come back? All right, I didn't say much. But when second or third person?
Right.
All right. I'd say to that person, listen, there's 3 people there. I'm just telling you what you want to hear. And it got to the point after about 15 more people left, I never heard anything else back.
That's a shame.
Because it could have been, I'm not saying I don't know, but when you have 6, 10, 15 people coming back saying there was 3 people yelling, disrespecting, I could see 1 or 2. But they wanted to hear. If you want to hear the truth, you better be able to take it.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You know?
And not just hear it, but then take action on it. And that's where a lot of people, unfortunately, that's where they stop is taking action, doing something about it, like you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, and there's a lot of times where I would love to put my exit interview out really well, the reason why I wanted to leave. But I think that's the difference sometimes between professional services. You got to be professional, But on that, Mark, let's go on to the next subject I wanted to talk to you about. You were discussing today about forward planning.
Yes,
forward planning. Take it off on this.
Okay, so Dave, some of the I got to say every person that I would say he or she is just a great leader, like just an incredible leader and manager. All the successful ones that I've worked with personally, whether I've worked for them or they worked for me or we were coworkers, there's one attribute that all of them had in common. They were forward thinkers, and not even forward thinkers. They were forward planners. They had the whiteboards and they're always mapping out what's the next week going to look like, our sales, our KPIs, what's our strategy, what's working, what's not. They're making the iteration as they go, and they're mapping out the year. I remember I had a manager that had he had like, it's okay, paper on the wall. These were big calendars, right? And it was this thick, like just taped against his wall. And I'm like, what is all that? I'm looking back, and it's like the last 15 years calendars. I'm like, what are you doing? What is this? And every day he has the weather written out. He has his sales, number of customers, everything. He's just super thorough. And like, this day our computers went down. This day we had a snowstorm, and he had it all mapped out. And he used that data for his planning his next year. Like, he had all the trends. Now, was that a good system?
Right.
No, it was on paper. No. It'd be better in Excel, and you could put maps and make it more visual. But the concept was bulletproof, right? He was a forward thinker, a forward planner, and so I've always lived by that. And I'm always mapping out my trends and trying to figure out what's next. How do we prepare against the next downturn? How do we prepare against a slow month? How do we prepare against high turnover? And going into before COVID in January, I have a meeting with my team, and we're talking about how do we get to our job seekers faster, because it's so competitive. By the time they pick up the phone, they've already accepted a job offer elsewhere. And so I'm talking about digital recruiting in the light industrial space, phone interviews, video interviews. Don't come in the branch. And you should have seen the darts like that were being thrown at me, which is fine. It's our industry. And then when COVID hit, everything got flipped upside down, and the new normal is digital, right? Yeah. And phone interviews and video interviews. And there's so many big players out there, Dave, to this day that have not opened their doors. They are doing everything remote in the light industrial space. Yep. And it's working. Luckily, in where I'm at, we were able to do that, but there's still a segment of the population that don't have access to the internet and don't have a phone and all those resources. Right. So they need to come in, and we make it a safe environment for them. But the digital model is the new norm. And I just want to say, where's that forward planning, right? Like, for all of you managers out there, and I don't care if you're in staffing or any industry, what happened to your forward planning when COVID hit? I get the sense that a lot of us lost our anything we've ever been taught in our lives. Like, just it went out the door. It went out the window. It was gone. And a lot of companies suffered. A lot of people lost their jobs. A lot of people, just got up and quit. They couldn't handle the stress. Like, all of those good leaders that are forward planners, they act strategically, they threw it out the window. I don't know what happened, Dave.
I've gone ahead, and while you're saying that, it goes through my mind. It's like I'm always constantly thinking, like I'm already thinking now, what happens if COVID comes back? I'm already there, because, like, for example, I've already started now, and you're going to love this one, the voice activation and recognition now. So why Alexa is listening to me.
Oh, that's a little
going to say something. Siri, Alexa, stop. Yeah, she'll listen. Siri, all the kind of things on the Google that you talk about, it picks up your voice recognition. So now it finally when I asked Alexa about Dave Wilson of Results Staffing and social media, today's the first day that it finally came up. So
Wow.
you could be Siri and ask, and it's not that expensive. And then the other one was, right now I got not tired of, my words aren't the greatest, but you know how the application process is so long on some companies.
Yeah.
I've made it now to where it's one click with your resume. That's it. If you go to the website now, there's 9 jobs. All they do is click, upload the resume, their phone number, name. It goes to me. I get the alert, send them a text, send them out the information to perform the video assessment. Yeah. I'm done. Then if you hire them, then you do then I do all the paperwork.
Right.
Now, high volume.
Reversed it.
Yeah. High volume, you still can do things like that, because this platform here, you could have 6 people plus 10 on the bottom. Now, if they really want a job, people really want a job. It's going to get to that soon. It's getting, they're going to have to start taking advantage of some of this AI and all this. I know a lot of people don't want to do it, but I tell them, please listen, you have to try something different, or you're not going to get through.
Well, if you think about it, Dave, anybody that went through business school, anybody that's got 20 years of applicable experience in the business world, they were always taught, you've got to understand the market, you've got to understand, the industry and the growth. You got to look at historical trends, and you've got to know your customers and know how to target them, and you've got to relate on. You've got to be able to identify your competition and all of that. And it's like, as soon as COVID hit, like that, all of that is the past. Yep. All of those trends are dead, and we have to now we have to forward plan. We have to go, okay, we've changed the way we live, the way we work, and what's not changed is really human psychology and human behavior. So if you understand marketing and psychology, you might do a little bit better here, but as business owners, business leaders, like, we have to adapt, and we have to look at the new trends, and we have to be forward thinkers and innovators, and we have to set those trends ourselves. And I think that's why you're probably seeing a pretty wide divide in this industry of those that are going away and those that are setting the trends, and they're becoming the new thinkers, right? They're becoming the trendsetters, and it's pretty, the right word here is distinguishable. It's very noticeable right now. And it's exciting. That's how markets change. That's how business changes. You have to adapt to the challenges at hand. And COVID is one of the biggest challenges we've ever experienced in this country, in this world, and especially in our industry. And it's neat to see the digital age of our industry, right?
And I tell everybody, everybody tells me, no, you don't want to do this. And I'm like, don't tell me no, because I'm going to figure out a way to make it say yes, because they are right. You do need humans. You do. You need, but if you put it all together, I know it's not rocket scientist, but I still need myself. I still have to talk to somebody physically. I'm talking to you over a little camera here. I could talk to anybody tomorrow. I have somebody calling me 9:30, and I'm going to go over his resume with him because he wants to apply for Amazon and a management job. And I looked at it and I was like, nah, you really need a lot of help. So he says, can I come over to the office? And afterwards we're thinking, I'm like, well, let's just do a screen share. So at 9:30, I'm going to pop his resume up. I already tore it all apart. I told him I'm very candid, and I said, let's do this. But look, I didn't even think of that. You don't have to travel out that far for something like that. I'm going to take 15 minutes of my time, tell him what I think about his resume, and look at that. I'm done. Right. Would I have done that before? No, never.
And people are we're just we're all product of this. Like, I don't know if you know this, Dave. I do. I read a lot of books on stuff that is just crazy, and I have a lot of fun learning about the brain. Right. And that's been a recent hobby of mine. And one thing I've learned is you have 70 to 90,000 thoughts in one day. I don't know if you knew that. That's a lot, right?
Yeah,
70 to 90 thoughts. And the most interesting part about that is 80% of all of those are the same thoughts you had yesterday. 80%. So we are literally living in the past every day. And so when we look at the trends in the market, if we look at what's going on, we're relying on the past. We're relying on what we knew and what we thought what used to work, and we can't conceptualize a new way of doing business. And that's where the new industry leaders are standing out, are the ones that can get past that the 80% of your thoughts that are living in the past and looking at new ways to connect with people and doing the video resumes and connecting with people virtually and finding new ways to connect without having to, make it in person every time.
Well, when you say it like that, it's the same reason as your process. Like, say what we're doing right now. And I've already told one of the companies, yeah, listen, let's put 6 people up. Let's interview them. I mean, as an orientation, have people lined up. You're not going to have people show, blah, 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 whatever. So as you're doing it, they get to see you. And when you teach somebody and you do a screen share, and visualize what you're talking about. Yeah. Then you see who got them because they're paying attention. It's just like in sales. If like the video resume, for example, that it's hard to sell it. Yeah. People look at that, the talent assessment, the testing. But if I get you on the screen as like a sales and show you, you're like, wow, look at that. But trying to get this to you through a phone, it's hard. They're going to be like, it's just another sales guy.
Right.
But the visualization, hey, that wasn't bad. That came out.
Well, you just reminded me that, you have these you have like normally you'd have 30 people go to a orientation. They'd all climb into a room. It'd be hot. The AC never works. And you're in there for 6 hours to 8 hours. Yep. And so you lose so many people that can't make it out there at the same time. And it's like, why can't we just record the orientation?
Yes.
Do a Microsoft Teams like orientation and let people do it from the convenience of their homes, or pre-record it and let them do it on their own time, and then have like a live Q&A session for an hour of what they learned. Like, why can't you do that? Why can't we do that?
They can't. And Steve, what I had said to that process before is we're already prepared for that, to where take a person from point A to where we would get them hired. I could get them hired. We could then go to, if a company would allow it, they could do their orientation with 6 to 8 people on the screen.
Right.
Talk to them. This is what you do. You have your paperwork. You're going to be sent your paperwork. If you don't want to do it, they can do it when they get there, when they sign it.
You can take all those paperwork and put it in a form online.
And then when they show up that day, do you realize how much time? Because think about it, when out of 10, maybe 3 doesn't show. But if you did it online, you're going to know already if they really want the job.
Well, here's the coolest thing, Dave. I see a lot of companies out there that are struggling to find people.
Yes.
Everybody is. But the ones that are not struggling as hard are the ones that are doing exactly what we're talking about.
Yes.
They're making it easier for the job seeker to get the job, to go through orientation on their time and the convenience of their home, and do it as safely as they want to do. And it just, they're taking all the barriers and removing them. They're throwing out the past of having everybody in one room. They have to be in that room. They have to show up 5 minutes early, or they're not going to make it. They're not allowed to leave for a break, or that's going to look bad on them. Like, they're just getting rid of those stigmas and going, hey, go watch it in the next couple of days on your time. Come join us for a live session for a test, and then welcome aboard. And the companies that are doing that, they are struggling a whole lot less to find people than the ones that are still trying to dig up the old model and try to make it work now in this post-COVID world.
It is. And all I want to do is I really want to see that look in someone's eye, like gulp, like, whoa. I want to see that person be like, wow. I want to make them feel what I feel. I wanted them to say, well, we can't do this way, or that drive-through didn't work, or this didn't, just job fair. I'm like, wow, just put a little thought. But making a change is, God, used to pre-COVID,
Oh, lost you there for a second. I don't know if it's my signal or your signal, Dave.
COVID. I know we always, there we go. But
There we
my
go.
point there is, man, you can make a difference now, because I always say blame COVID. Always blame COVID. I can sit there and blame, oh, it was COVID's fault. We tried, it didn't work. Oh, it was COVID's fault. It's amazing what you can do when you really have to get it done.
Right.
Versus a process, a long process. Oh, we always do it that way. But have something change, like what's happening now, like if COVID comes back, now we can make changes all of a sudden.
Yep.
Well, it's like, wait a minute here. What do you
opposition, adversity, crisis, that always leads change. And that's unfortunate. That's not a good forward thinker, a good forward planner. You do that. You do it before it's a necessity, right? Because you know at some point you're going to need to make the change, but instead you go the safe route. You put a Band-Aid on it, and then eventually, you're SOL, and you're making the change when it's too late.
And I think you really need to, the word communication to me nowadays, now, COVID, all that, I hate that word, but communication to me and customer service have come to an importance to me of beyond belief from before. Because if you're not communicating, again, we've talked about with extra interviews, forward planning, let people know your ideas, let everything, because you need to show them what you're doing. And open those opportunities, because I don't know if they just don't want to struggle, if they want to struggle, but if they don't have the vision, someone else will, right? They need to capture that. And sometimes it's not going to be that HR manager or plant manager. It's going to be someone from maybe a staffing company that's showing them the way. And sometimes they're showing the rest of the staffing companies out there by example of how we lead through this challenge. I had 3 people today. I always, like on Sundays, I always tell you, I reach out, and the candidates, this was for healthcare. They were applying for one of the hospital positions, and the process for the hiring was they went to the page, and then they had to go to another one. Then they had to upload documents. Then they had to take an assessment. Then they went to the interview, took an assessment there, came back, waited for round 2 to see if they got accepted, went back, did this. It was like 3 weeks. And I'm like, people were saying, well, I got to get paid.
Yeah.
So 3 weeks might have been okay 10 months ago.
Well, but even if these are professional people that have a job that you're asking them to leave, and you're asking them to dedicate what equates to probably 8 hours of work for a job they don't know they're going to get. That's a big ask, and you have a lot of fall off from that.
Yes.
And I hear some managers go, well, we want the dedicated ones that will make the time. And so even though it's a small group, they're going to be the best. And I go, no, you're losing the best because they are so busy with their current company kicking butt, but they want to work for yours, but they do not have the time to work through your red tape. And you're actually discouraging them from coming over because you've made it so difficult to come over. Stop it.
My cat over there. You got to love live interviews. I told you my cat's called COVID. I had to get that black cat, and she's still drive you crazy. But you're right. And the candidates that I spoke with today, somebody's going to get lucky because they're going to do the video resume tomorrow. And I'm hoping that somebody else takes them, because they could lose. You lose a valuable employee. Now, I don't know how you rush it, like you'd want to rush the process. I don't think you have to rush it.
When I got my job, I'll tell you a little secret. The company I work for right now, which the views on this program do not represent the views of the company.
Yeah, right.
When I got hired on, they did it perfectly. Like, I had a job offer before I filled out my application.
Nice.
And I know it's backwards, but the person that hired me, they saw the talent, they knew that they needed to act fast. And so they just cut through the red tape, and I'm sure they made HR pretty mad, but I had a competing offer. Like, there was a RVP flying in the next day to meet me to finalize everything. And I had to, because my current company cut through the red tape and made it happen. and I didn't even fill out a paper application yet. Like, I called this guy and said, sorry, you cancel your flight. I've accepted another position. And I felt bad, but you know, whoever's the fastest, whoever cuts the red tape, you know, is going to win. And it's just as simple as that.
I've seen him lose some people, some really good candidates that I've had, that I try not to get aggravated, because I'm like, wow, you are losing one of a valuable person because they can't wait 3 weeks, 4 weeks. You're crazy. I would be like, right there, because I don't want to send anybody I feel that I wouldn't hire myself for professional services. If I send a candidate for professional services, direct hires, I would only send them if I would hire them. That's my motto. I'm sorry.
I love that.
I like it because I'd be like, you know what? I would hire this guy, but the communication, that's why I told you, if you listen to some people, a lot right now, I know I'm going to wrap it up here shortly, but a lot of people aren't as qualified in certain jobs now. Let's just say HR and customer service. You know, you have an HR people that might have to start over again.
Yeah.
Take something in customer service. And everybody comes back to me with reasons why, no, they're not going to stay. Well, how do you know?
Yep.
Have you listened to the person, listened to what they've been through, and the way things are right now? You have to treat people with empathy. You have to treat them with speed, with especially with unemployment. We don't know what's going on these next, right after the election. We don't know. And the jobs now, I'm trying to tell candidates, take them, get the job now. You've even said it. I've heard you a couple of times.
They're companies. It's just, I mean, I've been in business long enough to know once you hit a certain point where you just, even though you don't have the staff that you need, you just work with what you have, you get the job done. And once the job is done, you're not going to go back and hire the 100 people that you need. No, the job's done. And now you're back to just normal day to day. So the jobs are out there, and there's not that many left, but the jobs are out there, and companies are trying to make do with what they have. And if you don't make that next career move now, the chance of doing that it's going to be another 6 months to a year. This is just a perfect window for a job seeker, but I can't stress it more than I can right now. There's only a couple weeks left for you to do that. And the opportunity for growth and getting promotions is also there because of this expansive growth and all this catch up that we're doing as a country. There's just more need for line supervisors and managers and plant managers. And there's just so much movement going on. And someone that's not normally qualified, that would have been a year from now, is qualified today. And they need to ask for those promotions, and they need to make the move. They need to make those moves. They've got
I've heard you say it a couple of times. I've heard you say it a couple of times on your show, and you're right. There is. I tell people, they say there's not. Yes, there is. Don't keep saying there isn't. What company do you want to work for? Okay, let's do what we said with the video resume. Let's send it over to the companies. Some of them aren't advertising. They're not because it's the fourth quarter. Like you said, if you're not in there now, these next couple of weeks, we could talk back.
That's it. That's all we have left.
It'll go into January. I think a little bit longer this year because of the demand on people. But right now is the time, because you know yourself, your first quarter is a little bit slower. So I don't know what to tell people. Is like, you don't wait. You know,
you got to take action.
No, and do something crazy. I mean,
and that's not just in light industrial. It's anywhere you're looking. If you need to make your next career move, I'm telling you, you have to do it now. If not, you're going to wait 6 months to a year, and it might not be the same opportunity that you have right now in front of you that you're not looking for. You've got to do it. Take action. Your future's not a month from now, 6 months from now. Your future is right now. It's today. You've got to do it. So stop waiting.
Oh, I tell them all the time. And then I just got to call. I can't wait. Eddie, I think she is. She's watching, and I got to reach out to her tomorrow. She had done a video resume, and now she's like, she needs to find a job now. And she's like, she's all excited. And I'm like, all right. She's already sent me an email of so many companies and job openings. I was like, whoa, you go, girl. But there you go. If you're a go-getter, and if you really want a job, now's the time.
Now's the time.
But wow. Oh, wow. 44 minutes.
How did we go 44 minutes?
I have no clue. And I remember it's 10:14 here. It's only what?
It's 8:14 here. But hey, it's starting to snow over here, so I'll have a nice drive back home from my office in the snow.
Is it?
Yeah.
I saw that. I was like, I didn't believe it's happening already. What are you getting, like a dusting?
Yeah, it's just a dusting. I happen to love the snow, so I'm excited about it.
No, I want to thank you for coming on tonight. You know, we talked earlier, and it's just nice to talk about staffing.
Yeah.
Because if anybody out there got one or two things from the conversations that we have, and I always tell everybody, I don't know everything. I just voice my opinion, even though I am the best. Sorry, I have to say that. There's nothing wrong.
You are pretty good, Dave. I'll give you that.
Thank you. There you go. There you go. Because I would always be like to the recruiters, come on, say it. You're good, Dave. Thank you. Thank you. You're the best. You know, I always joke about it, but I just like bringing the main thing out of this tonight is communication with your HR directors, your exit interviews. Really go to that supervisor, go to your boss, go not your coworker. You don't really want to try to coworker. Go to the person of responsibility. Try to slow down your exit interviews because you're going to save up. I mean, you're going to save people. Or lower retention. You know,
that's a forward planning. You've got the data. Take action on it.
It is. So, oh, look, Janie, she's in Australia. She just woke up.
Hey,
she went for a job interview. See, thank you, Janie. See, told you. See, thank you, Janie. You know me by now. I reached out to her. We did a video conference, and she went for a job interview. And
wow,
she's not sure if she's got it yet, but Janie,
you got it, Janie. You got this.
She did, and she was great. She was over in Australia, and here I am. I'm like, wow, this is pretty cool talking to somebody over there. But thanks a lot, Stephen. We'll talk this week. 46 minutes. That's almost one of the longest shows I've done in a while.
Hey, I love it. Anytime.
All right. On that note, everybody, have a great Sunday night. So you got to still think once in a while. Sunday night. It's Monday. Do you know where your employers are? Or employees? God, employers. You know it's time for me to go. On that note, have a great night. Here we go. We are ending